Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited to share with you my 200-day journey of meditation and what I learned along the way. These 200 days were filled with lots of self-discovery, reflection, and inner growth, and I'm beyond looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Just a disclaimer, I did move by the time of my journey of this 200-day meditation, so just keep in mind that that might play a role in my mood changes, but for the most part, I really believe that the meditation played a huge role in my behavior change. So without further ado, let's jump in right to the topic of today. Starting off with number 1 is emotional equilibrium. I noticed that my emotions began to become more stable and that I had better reactions to adverse events or challenges or setbacks that I faced. I noticed that when I meditated more, it put me more in a state of observance and allowing these emotions and any subconscious conflicts to come to the rise and welcome it with acceptance and merely just acknowledge that it was there without ruminating on it. And with repetition, recognizing that these emotions were there and realizing that this is just my response and only my response to the outside stimulus, was that I realized that I had so much more control over my life than I thought I did. And I think the most important part of this was interactions with people. Naturally, I tend to have more of a short temper, and I became more patient with others after meditating daily. It increased my patience, and it also helped me develop a sense of empathy and understanding towards others. In the end, I realized that this emotional equilibrium also made me realize that everything happens for a reason, and I just can't always blame others for the things that they do. And I really believe that people always have an intention behind everything they do, whether it be good or bad. But with every intention, I understood the meaning behind it, and I became non-judgmental, and therefore I was able to gain empathy through the practice of meditation. The second lesson I learned from meditating for 200 days is that I found myself to be more connected with my true self, which I refer to as my consciousness. I knew my basic personality and quirks to begin with, but when I meditated, I really felt into my body, and I felt the somatic symptoms of what my emotional and mental distress were manifesting as in my body. And when I paid attention to these areas in my body, I was able to identify what parts of my physical body were triggered by this distress. And once I identified that, I was able to understand the natural way that my body, my mind, and my emotions work. And once I dug deeper into these reactions, I was able to make connections from my subconscious mind and the powerhouse that runs my personality and my unconscious doings, my unconscious actions, thoughts, beliefs, etc. When I meditated, I was able to tap into the self that usually shows when I'm unaware of it, which a lot of us refer to as our shadow self. And I believe strongly that the more in touch you are with your shadow self, the more aligned you are with your entire character, because I've noticed that many people try to shut out their shadow self because maybe society doesn't approve of it, or maybe some people are too afraid to confront it, or others merely are afraid of seeing how powerful or what potential they can make of themselves if they confront this shadow self. The third lesson I learned was increased confidence. I want to be very straightforward with this one because it is straightforward itself, but when I practiced meditation, the majority of the meditations I did were usually just sensory based, where I was feeling into my body. And sometimes this required like a visualization that roots were coming up from the earth and grabbing onto my limbs and grounding me closer to the earth. And this in itself, I feel like, got me really comfortable in my body, and it took my mind out of the clouds because I'm naturally a very cerebral personality, and my mind's just going into being very analytic and very logical. But I noticed that before I started meditating, I was not in touch with my body, and I feel like that was the main purpose of why I was not confident. But day by day, my confidence began to increase, and I started performing better at work. I started giving better presentations at school, and I felt more motivated to create content for YouTube and work in my coaching business as well. The results I had in regards to confidence, I believe, were mainly due to the fact that I was feeling more comfortable with my body. And to reiterate, because I am naturally a cerebral personality with my head in the clouds, it was crucial for me to come back into my body and exude the confidence and the life of being in this vessel that carries me along the earth. My fourth lesson is the way my focus increased. And this is a pretty common one when it comes to practicing meditation over a long interval of time. The first thing I noticed is that on my first day of meditation, I was very squirmy, and I did not like the idea of sitting alone with my body for 15 minutes straight. And the first thing I noticed is that I was able to complete my college courses a lot more efficiently because I wasn't flighty and I wasn't jumpy and I wasn't tackling subject to subject, and instead, I was just focusing on one thing at a time, and concepts were able to come to me so much more easily. And this applies outside of my school life too. I was able to better focus at work, and I was able to listen better to others as well. So in return, I had really good feedback at work, and my relationships were strengthened solely because I was just listening better, because my focus had increased so much. And my fifth and final lesson is better performance at everything that I do. This boils down to getting in a state of flow. And how it comes from meditation is that when you meditate, the goal is to get in a state of focus. And this focus is usually just focusing on your breathing or focusing on a point during a visualization meditation. And once you've exercised this focus muscle, it automatically puts you into that flow state. And when you meditate more often, you'll begin to realize that it becomes easier and you get into that meditative state more easily, and that you're able to go on meditations for longer and even get to an enlightened state. I would say it's around day 14 that the flow state starts to get automatic when you're doing something that you're passionate about, because you've worked on that focus muscle, that flow muscle, for so long that it starts to automatically apply to most things that you focus on. For instance, my job requires a lot of focus, and before I started meditating every day, it was really hard for me to catch all of the details of all the work I was doing. And then once I started meditating, I performed better, and I even got all this great feedback from my coworkers and my boss. And to reiterate my schoolwork, it also improved because I was getting into a state of flow. Concepts made sense to me. I was able to comprehend abstract concepts and I was participating in discussions, and I was giving all these amazing presentations solely because I was able to automatically get into that state of flow. To conclude, meditation affects all aspects of our life: the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And taking everything that I just talked about into consideration, think about how much meditating can impact your life and everything you can accomplish and overcome if you meditate every single day. I'm thanking you guys so much for staying till the end of the video, and if you want to see more content like this, do not be afraid to leave a comment below on what type of content you'd like to see next. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.